Welcome Bitcoin friends, it's Bitcoin Mamo. Today we're going to look at the Bitcoin charts, we'll do some TA, look at various time frames, and we'll also take a look at market cipher. So I want to start here on the 2-week chart. We did just open a new 2-week candle on Monday. We did close the previous 2-week candle inside the golden pocket area, and that's taking the fib retracement from the 29k low to the 69k high. Do have these two order blocks drawn in here from this red candle in an uptrend and this red candle in this uptrend. These are areas of supply and demand. They become of interest later on when we interact with these levels, and they can act as support or resistance. So we did close below this 2-week order block, and we can see we did that on this previous occasion here, and the following 2-week candle we did get back above it, and that was a good indication that we were going to move higher. We also did it on this consolidation between 30 and 40k. We closed the 2-week candle below the order block, and the following 2-week candle we did reclaim it, and that was a good indication we were going to move higher. The top of this order block is all the way at 48,700, so Bitcoin does have a bit of work to get back to those levels. Looking at the VPVR, the amount of volume traded at certain price levels, this can also indicate areas of support or resistance, and we can see this big spike here did act as resistance and push us lower here. On the previous 2-week candle, we did actually wick down into the area where the VPVR has more support here, around the 40,000 area. Do also have these trend lines drawn. This trend line connects the overall lows. This trend line connects these two highs, previous resistance, and we're looking to flip that into new support. We also have this dotted trend line just connecting the 69k high and the next high on this bounce on this green candle. We can see all three lines intersect at the same point on the 2-week chart at around 41,100. And that's on this current 2-week candle. So we'd like to see this area hold, even though I do think we're going to spend a few weeks grinding out this area. And onto the weekly time frame, we also opened that new weekly candle here. We can see that previous weekly candle closing inside the golden pocket area. All these trend lines are the same. And when looking at the weekly chart, we do see that the intersection of these lines won't occur till next week, which will still be within that 2-week candle. So I do think we're possibly going to spend this week and next week still ranging in this area, but I'd be looking on the following week for Bitcoin to have a bounce, and this would be heading towards the end of January and the start of February. Pulling up the EMA ribbon now, we can see on that previous weekly candle we did wick into the EMA ribbon. I did mention in previous videos, if Bitcoin does spend a whole week below this ribbon without touching it at all, currently the bottom of the ribbon's at around 43,750. If we were to spend that whole week without touching this ribbon, then I would expect Bitcoin to drop further, possibly down to the 35,000 area, where we do have a weekly order block with this green candle. And for me, I would think then we're possibly in a bear market. But we'll have to see what happens on this weekly candle. I do still think we're just going to spend a few more weeks consolidating here before we start moving back to the upside. Do also have this possible hidden bullish divergence on the RSI, where we have higher lows on the price action while making lower lows on the RSI. For that to be confirmed, I would need to see Bitcoin get back above this previous red candle here. And for that to happen, we'd have to get all the way back to around 47,250. To the 4-day time frame now. We have been looking at this chart because there have been some relevant order blocks. And we can see this red candle in an uptrend and this red candle in an uptrend. And on this drop, we have been using these order blocks as support. We have wicked into this bottom order block several times, have closed the 4-day candles inside this higher order block. And with the previous 4-day candle, we did close above both of these order blocks. This current 4-day candle did just open on Monday, So there are several days left on this candle, and we'll have to see if it does also close above these order blocks and use them as support. And down to the daily time frame now, we've got all those same trend lines drawn. When looking at the intersection of those three lines, we can see it will occur around the 23rd to the 25th of January. And as mentioned, I think Bitcoin's going to grind out this area over this week and next week before we might see a bounce. Looking at some daily order blocks now, I won't go over where we got these from, but we can see we did wick into this order block here on this move to the upside. We did get rejected. We came back to this second order block. We closed below it, and then we have been battling this order block currently. We can see we have closed all these daily candles inside this order block, so we weren't able to reclaim it. And this current daily candle has dipped back down below the order block. This daily candle hasn't closed yet, so we have to see how it closes. But we also have an order block from this red candle in this uptrend. We can see it has been relevant. When we did wick down on this candle, we did pretty much come to this order block and got this strong bounce. And on this current daily candle, we also wicked into the order block here. So this does seem to be an important order block with these wicks. And we'll have to see if Bitcoin can hold this order block by closing the bodies of the candles above this order block. Looking further down, the next daily order blocks are all the way down between 39,200 and 38,400. So now I want to compare this previous consolidation here between 30 and 40,000 with our current consolidation. There are some similarities. We did have this big wick down on this initial drop, similar to this big wick down and a nice bounce. We did consolidate sideways. We had an attempt to move higher and then a bigger drop down where we did go below the previous wick. We also did that on this consolidation. We had a move to the upside and then a bigger drop down with a lower wick compared to the previous wick. So if we are doing a similar thing, we could possibly be somewhere around here at the moment, and we could spend time grinding out one more time towards the low of these wicks. So just comparing those two now, on the left is this consolidation here between 30 and 40k. And on the right, our current price action. Do you have a trend line just connecting these two highs and a similar trend line on the RSI connecting those similar highs? We can see on this previous occasion when we did have this drop and wick lower than that previous wick, we did a similar thing here. We did go below the previous wick. We are currently above it just slightly, and we spent a bit of time here before we did break this trend line, and then spend time going sideways and down to test the lows of that first wick again. So if we're in a similar spot here, we could see us possibly break this trend line, which is currently at around 44,500, but it is coming down quite quickly. We could possibly get above this trend line and spend time grinding out this area, going down to a similar level as this wick, around 41,500. We have that same trend line on the RSI, just connecting those similar highs here on the chart. And we can see once we did get back above this trend line on this previous consolidation, this did indicate that the bottom was in, and we did start moving to the upside. We could see a similar thing here while we grind out this area. And when we do possibly break this trend line, it could be an indication that that bottom is in. So have the death cross that did just happen a couple of days ago here, and it is quite similar to this fractal we're comparing. We had that death cross, we went a bit lower here, and we did get above that trend line, and eventually once we got above the yellow 50-day moving average, the red is the 200-day moving average, it did indicate that bottom was in, and we did start going higher, eventually getting that golden cross on the other side and moving all the way up to 69k. So we could look for a similar thing with our current price action, watching this 50-day moving average come down lower and we could possibly break this trend line, and then once we do break above this 50-day moving average, could be an early indication that we are going to keep moving to the upside. See on this previous fractal, broke the trend line at a similar time as we broke that 50-day moving average, and we also got above this 50 area on the RSI. So I'll be watching all three of those things. The 50 area is a bit higher here. It looks like we'll possibly break the trend line first, but I think once we get above that 50-day moving average and also this 50 area on the RSI, it would give me a lot of confidence that we are going to start moving higher, and we can look for that golden cross on the other side. And just another way to look at that comparison, this is the 30 to 40k consolidation down the bottom and our current consolidation. We can see we just had that death cross. So this could take a bit longer here, depending how long we take to get above the 50-day moving average. And it may even take more than a couple of weeks here, as we do spend time going sideways, grinding out this area. But we'll have to follow this day by day and see how long it takes for Bitcoin to try to get back above the 50-day moving average. Just quickly looking at the 4-hour time frame now, we have all the same trend lines drawn. I just want to mention something we talked about in a previous video as we were coming up here. I did mention that we could possibly have some hidden bearish divergence, as we were already above on the RSI, making higher highs on the RSI, and we were on our way up here. We had to get all the way back up to 46.7 to negate that hidden bearish divergence. So that did end up playing out with lower highs on the price action. We did have this dip back down, and we have pretty much been going sideways for a few days here, and we've just had this dip recently. So let's take a look at market cipher now. This is on the 4-hour time frame. This was that thin order block we were talking about. We can see on the 4-hour time frame we did wick into it twice here, and also on this current drop. These are the Fibonacci candles when looking at market cipher. So looking at the 4-hour now, we can see we've had this dip down with this blue wave. We are getting closer to a green dot on the other side. It might take several more candles here. The 6-hour blue wave is still coming down. Looks like it has several more candles before we might see that green dot. The money flow is still fairly deep in the red on the 6-hour chart. The 12-hour has been a bit less predictable with these green and red dots. We are pretty much around the 0 line. And the money flow is yet to get back into the green ever since back in the 18th of November when we were around 60,000. Looking at that previous consolidation here between 30 and 40k, can see how long we spent in the red on the money flow. Onto the daily time frame now, we did get that green dot back on the 11th of January. We have been moving up with this blue wave. It does look like it's starting to curve and possibly going to get a red dot soon, depending on the price action, but this money flow is still quite deep in the red. The 2-day did also get that green dot on the 13th of January, and the 3-day does currently have a green dot, but there is another day after this candle close before we will see another candle to confirm that green dot. And the 4-day did just open this candle on Monday. There was a green dot present at one point in time, but with this drop it has disappeared. We do have several days left on this candle. So this is the next higher time frame. We're looking for that green dot. And again, as mentioned previously, to confirm that the bottom is definitely in and we're going to start moving higher on a macro time frame, we'll need to see that green dot on the weekly time frame. Like we did on this previous consolidation, that green dot did indicate we were going to move higher for several weeks. So we are looking for that green dot. We did just open this new candle, and it does still look to be possibly 2 more candles away, which would be at the end of January. And just to compare all of those time frames on the market cipher now, this on the left is our previous drop from 65k to 29k, and that consolidation between 30 and 40k. This is our current price action with that drop from 69k to 40k, and our current consolidation here. So on this first row is the daily time frame, the second row the 2-day, the third row the 3-day, then the 4-day, the 5-day, the 6-day, and finally the weekly time frame on the bottom. So we're just looking for those green dots to follow on from each other all the way down to the weekly time frame. And currently, as we looked at earlier, we have green dots on the 1, the 2, and the 3-day time frame. Looking at the previous consolidation here, this was the first major wick down. This was the second wick down that went slightly lower. And after that wick down, we can see we had green dots on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6-day. But we never got it down the bottom here on the weekly time frame. We did have that one more drop down towards the lows of both of these wicks before we saw that weekly green dot. Looking at that from a similar point, this was our wick down that went slightly lower than that initial wick, and we can see we currently have the 1, the 2, and the 3-day green dots. So we could be somewhere around here, and even though we might get these green dots on the higher time frames, again that weekly green dot did confirm that the bottom was in. Know a bit earlier, as we see on this previous consolidation between 30 and 40k, we didn't get that weekly green dot until we had bounced from 30 to 40k already. So to know a bit earlier, I will be looking at that daily time frame and those trend lines getting above that 50-day yellow moving average, and also that 50 level on the RSI. So that could give an earlier indication to get into a long position, and the weekly green dot would really confirm to me that we are going to carry on higher. And just to show you that again, we have that weekly 50-day moving average in yellow coming down here. We're looking to do a similar thing as we did between 30 and 40k, and also get above the 50 level on the RSI and the trend line connecting the highs from this drop. So I do think we're going to grind out here for a bit longer as this 50-day moving average comes down and starts leveling off. And then we'll be looking to get above that, possibly first to break this white trend line on the RSI, then the trend line on the chart, and then look to get above the 50 level and the 50-day moving average. So I think that's about all. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that analysis on Bitcoin Mamo. I'll see you next time. Bye.